Hello and welcome to this edition of Recovery Talks, a television show made by the recovery community for the recovery community. I'll be your host today. My name is Dennis Dutra. I'm a person in long-term recovery, and what that means for me is I haven't used drugs and alcohol since May 17th, 2011. And as a result, my life has gotten considerably better. I'd like to introduce today's guest, Bill Goodwin. Welcome, Bill.
Hey, how you doing?
Thank you for coming.
Thanks.
Bill, would you tell the folks at home a little bit about yourself?
Okay, well, I'm definitely in recovery. I've been clean for a little over 10 years. And
Congratulations.
yeah, thanks. It wasn't easy. You know, I think the thing that was the hardest for me was like the frustration, you know, because I had been through a couple different programs. I tried a couple different things to try to get, you know, to try to stay clean. And, you know, like a lot of the things that I tried just weren't working, you know, like, so the frustration of you know, like what's going to work, you know, that was tough.
Yeah,
you know?
not everything works for everybody, and I know, you know, I've tried different things myself.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you do today to sustain your recovery?
Well, I mean, one of the things that helps a lot, like I'm really involved in helping other people, you know, like just through different, you know, places that I work, you know, the church that I go to, you know, different organizations that I'm associated with, they give me an opportunity to stay involved, you know what I mean? And so, you know, by doing that, I think one of the things that's helped me a lot is now, like, I have a purpose, you know, and the purpose that I have, that, you know, these different organizations have given me is the purpose of being able to help people, and that helps me that does a lot to keep me on the right track, you know what I mean?
I can really identify with that. I know you do a lot of work with the Anchor Recovery Community Center,
Mm-hmm.
and you are a recovery coach.
Yep, yeah.
I would like for you to tell the folks at home a little bit about what a recovery coach does.
Okay. Recovery coach is basically there to, you know, try to keep the person on track in their recovery. Like I said, I think one of the biggest things in you know, early in recovery is the frustration, you know, of not knowing, not being aware of where to go to get the help that you need, you know, because people in recovery, they have, you know, a lot of times they'll have need for, you know, a place to live, you know, health insurance, a lot of different needs that they have. And what a recovery coach does is a recovery coach helps to, you know, make the resources aware, you know, make them aware of the resources that are available, you know. So it just helps ease their frustration, you know what I mean? So I'll keep in touch with them on a weekly basis, and I'm basically there, whatever they need help with, you know, resources, and so.
So if I was one of the folks at home and I was looking to connect with a recovery coach,
mm-hmm.
what would I do?
If you were to come into Anchor, if you came into Anchor, and at Anchor there's recovery coach there at all times, at least one recovery coach. So basically what you would do is just go to Anchor and say, you know, I need, you know, if you walk in there and say, you know, you need help, and you start asking questions, you know, immediately the people at Anchor are going to realize that, you know, you need a recovery coach. So it's not, you know, you don't even have to go in there and say, you know, like, I need a recovery coach, but you just go there, and if you're a person in need, you know, we'll assign somebody to you.
Yeah. That's great, Bill. So if I came into Anchor and I need some help with, you know, I keep relapsing and I'm homeless and I just don't know what to do anymore. If I talk to you, like, how would you respond to me? Could you give us an example?
Well, you know, there's different degrees of of that. You know what I mean? So first of all, what I'd have to do is assess, how serious the need is. Sometimes people might think they need a specific thing, but there's really no sense in addressing that specific thing because there's other things underlying, So it's kind of like you have to help the person to realize what they really need. Sometimes people think, well, I need this, but in reality, they need something else. Like somebody might come in and, say they need a place to live. Well, in talking with them, they need a detox. You know what I mean? They need to go to a detox first. So part of the job is being able to, distinguish what the real needs are for the person. So basically, the first thing is the assessment to find out exactly what they need, and then once you determine that, it's just a matter of putting them in touch with the resources. We'll make calls for people, and we'll try to help somebody out. But a lot of times, what we try to do is get them involved as well. So it's not like the type of thing where a recovery coach does everything for the person. We kind of like lead them in the right direction and give them assistance.
So I think it's great you actually let them choose their own path to recovery.
Yeah, in some respects,
What are some of the biggest obstacles that you've encountered in sustaining your own recovery?
My own recovery? I would say that one of the main things is maintaining a diligence. Just maintaining that sense of that they call it the gift of desperation. A lot of times early in recovery, I was extremely desperate. But the thing is, there were times before in my life that I was desperate too, but it didn't really lead to a permanent path, to a set path. You know what I'm saying? So the gift of desperation is when you get a hold of that desperation to maintain, your clean time or your sobriety, and to actually maintain that. You know what I'm saying? Rather than, that's the main challenge, is just remaining diligent and realizing, what I have to do each day, which is basically, like I said, stay involved with people. There's definitely, I have to stay in contact with God each day, and by staying in contact with God each day, He helps me to maintain. He gives me the drive, the power to be able to maintain that.
I can identify with that.
I think that's the biggest obstacle that people face. When we get desperate, we get desperate, but that doesn't always last. That's in other words, desperation. Sometimes you need to maintain it, and I think that's a big challenge for people.
So I'm hearing that you're doing a lot of service work, and your career revolves around the recovery community, mm-hmm. and you're going to church. Mm-hmm. And those are great pathways to recovery, and I do those things as well. Are there other pathways that you incorporate into sustaining your recovery besides those two things?
That's a good question. I don't know. To me, like I said, it's all about purpose, maintaining the purpose. What am I trying to say? You got me here. That's a good question.
I think it's great. And Bill, if that's all you do to sustain your recovery, that's all you need to do, because it's obviously working for you.
Right.
I was just wondering if there were other things that you could share with the folks at home, some other things that you do that they might be able to have an idea to do themselves to help them at home. So I know you're doing a lot of work in the prison as well. You do some work in there. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay. Yeah, the prison is it's a unique thing because, like you talk about desperation. You know, a lot of the guys that are in prison, they've been there before, and the frustration again of ending up in the same place. You know, and so you know, by going into the prison, we're trying to let them know that there is hope. You know, that there is hope that when they get out this time, that everything's going to be okay. You know, so we try to make them aware of of what's available to them when they get out. You know what I'm saying? So that when they get out, they have a plan. That's the main thing that we try to help them with. You know, to realize that that there are grants out there that will help them with housing and things like that. So yeah, it's basically it's a good thing because we're trying to instill hope, you know, in them. So it's a good opportunity.
Excellent. And when you say grants, are you talking about the Access to Recovery grant?
Access to Recovery, yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Access to Recovery is a grant that's been awarded to the state of Rhode Island, and it's an awesome program because when a person gets out of prison, they can have their sober housing, recovery housing paid for. You know, they can get up to 3 months of recovery housing paid for. They can get mental health counseling. They can get a bus pass, you know, for 6 months. They can get recovery coaching. It also provides for life skills for people. And so, you know, it's just like I have a recovery house in Rhode Island, and there's a lot of guys that have come out of prison that have come into the recovery house, and because they have that grant, you know, they don't have to worry about finding a place to live when they come out of prison. They don't have to worry, like, you know, I got to get a job right away, and I don't have to get all these things in place, you know. So, I mean, it's an awesome program. I've seen a lot of guys that have come into our house. You know, they've got their license back. You know, they've got their families back. They've obtained a vehicle. You know, I mean, just so many things, and that grant has helped because they don't have to concentrate right away on things like housing and things like that, things that would divert them, you know.
Sounds like it's breaking down a lot of barriers for people.
Oh yeah, the people that have taken advantage of that grant have been done very, very well.
Now, does somebody have to be coming out of an institution like the adult correctional institution in order to utilize this grant?
No. They, if a person has had a problem with substance abuse and they meet a certain income, you know, criteria, you know, they're eligible for it.
Excellent. And how would the folks at home know how to utilize this grant? Could you tell us a little bit about how they can go about looking into this?
Come to Anchor.
Come to Anchor.
Come to Anchor, and what we do at Anchor is we help to get people an assessment by the people from ATR, you know, in order to obtain that grant. You know, there's really no need for a person to be homeless at this point. I mean, this grant just provides that for people. You know, there's no need to be homeless. There's no need to not be able to get the mental health counseling and things that are important. You know, because this grant is right there. Like I tell the guys, you know, when I go into prison, I said, you know, you don't have to go back to the neighborhood that you came from. You don't have to go back to this, you know, hanging with the same people that you hung around with. You know, you don't have to do that. You know, because this is available. Yeah, it's awesome. It really is. I love it.
It really is. Now, you mentioned the mental health counseling. The ATR also provides assistance?
To a certain extent, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
to a certain extent. They've sort of been phasing that out a little bit, but I think they still cover a certain amount of that.
So it makes sense they phase it out a little bit due to the Health Source Rhode Island now.
Right. Yeah, and yeah, because of the Health Source Rhode Island, there's been quite a few changes in the type of mental health care that's being provided now.
So what are some of the most common barriers that people present you with when they come to you in trying to find recovery or sustain their recovery? Could you tell us a little bit about the most common barriers and how we can overcome those barriers?
I think the biggest barriers is having a place to live. You know, if you don't have a place to live, if you want to apply for work, you can't really give an address. You know, a specific place where people can get in touch with you. I think that's the biggest barrier that people have. Is first you got to find a place for people to live. You know, as far as other barriers, let me see. You know, transportation. You know, people have to have transportation. You know, if they're looking for work, they have to be able to get there. So transportation's important. I'd say those are the main, the main barriers, yeah.
So for somebody that's already used their ATR grant, that are having these barriers now, what would be the best advice that you could give to them?
Best advice, wow. There are some organizations, like if a person's in a really desperate situation, if they've used up their ATR grant and there's just, they're still in a pretty desperate situation, there are some organizations that will help them. I believe the Amos House, will help them with housing. There's different religious organizations, churches that also have, can help people with things like that. There's the Providence Rescue Mission. They can help to house people. Crossroads, I know, some people that have gone to Crossroads and gotten help with that.
So there is still hope for people.
Oh yeah,
I think it's important to show that. And,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and there's houses, there's different houses that if a person can't pay, they'll, like I know that, like the house that we have, like if we have an open bed and there's somebody that's in a desperate situation and they can't, even if they can't pay, sometimes we'll give them a bed. We've done that with people. We've given them a bed to stay in, and they've gotten jobs, and before you know it, they're able to pay to stay there. So yeah, the way I look at it, if we have a bed available, might as well do that. And I know we're not the only ones that do it. So it's just a matter of being persistent. And again, the neat thing about Anchor is that we're aware of places like that. You know what I mean? We're aware, so a person isn't, trying to do all this on their own. Yeah.
I think you're a really good inspiration, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Gee, thanks.
It's been a pleasure knowing you. I've known you for a while now, and I know you're very musically inclined.
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell us a little bit about what the music does for you?
Music? Well, I mean, I love a lot of different kinds of music. Basically, the music that I'm involved with now is the music at our church. I'm on the worship team there. We lead the congregation in worship and play the piano, a little bit of guitar. Do a little bit of singing, and both my wife and I are involved in that. So it's pretty neat that my wife and I can both do that, and share together. Yeah. Music is. I love gospel music, Christian music. It's. Yeah.
Do you find that expression is part of what helps to sustain you in your recovery?
Oh, absolutely, because the things that I've been through in my life, and the hope that I have now, is all wrapped up in that music. You know what I mean? It's like the songs that we do at the church are all related to that whole experience. You know, of finding hope. You know, I mean, the music that I'm involved in, I love music that's involved in hope. You know what I'm saying? Because that's, you know, that I kind of feel, you know, what my life is all about is to let people know that there is hope. You know, that there is hope. What amazes me is that, like in my life, I was at a point in my life where everything was totally hopeless. You know, I mean, like just like totally hopeless, right? And you know, as a result of what God has done in my life, as a result of you know, being a part of 12-step programs, as a result of being a part of organizations that are there to help people, you know, I've just gotten to the point where it's just such an awesome thing to let somebody know, you know, that they feel that things are hopeless, that there is hope, you know. And so it's, you know, music does that. You know, I love to teach. You know, I've had a lot of opportunities to teach, you know, and to run groups, and always, you know, trying to express to people that there is hope. You know, there is hope.
That's an important message to get across to people, because I can totally identify with that.
Yeah.
I had felt hopeless at times in the past.
Yeah.
And
It's you know, to feel hopeless is no fun. It's not a, you know.
So recovery definitely is possible.
Oh yeah.
We're living examples of that.
Yeah.
And,
I never, you know, I never in my wildest dreams, you know, especially when I was in the midst of the addiction, imagined that I could ever be in a position in my life where I could offer hope to people. It's just, it's like, it's amazing, you know. It just really is. Sometimes when I'm talking to people, I'm like, am I really, you know, am I really saying this? Because I just remember back when things were so dismal, and you know, it just boggles my mind, you know.
So what I'm hearing is that remembering also helps you with the sustaining your recovery as well. Just remembering where you don't want to be again. I know that's how it is for me.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Don't ever want to go back to that. Never want to go back to that.
So do you write your own music?
I wish I did. I've tried to write music, and it's never really worked out, you know.
Okay. Well, I've heard you play, and you know, you play very well. I was very impressed.
Yeah.
And,
Thanks. Thanks.
I hear you play quite frequently at church.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, everybody has different gifts, you know, and I think a good part of life is realizing that and accepting that, you know, like I've accepted the fact that I'm probably not going to write music. You know what I mean? I've accepted that fact. I've accepted the fact that there's different things that other people do that I'd like to do, but maybe I'm not necessarily, you know, able to do something like that. So when I find something that I really enjoy and I'm good at, you know, I just stick with it. You know, like the piano, you know, I just concentrate on that. Yeah, that was a tough thing to learn, just to be satisfied with who I was and not worry about the fact that I'm not like that person, or you know, acceptance.
well, I like the person sitting here before me today, Bill.
Gee, thanks, Dan.
We're really happy to have you on the show today. And you know, it's funny that we're sitting here now in this context, because when I first met you,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it wasn't the best of circumstances for me.
Right.
You know, I was struggling just getting into recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And you worked as a residential assistant,
Mm-hmm.
in a treatment facility that I was in. And How did that help you with your recovery, being that residential assistant in the program?
Being a residential assistant. Well, I've worked in different aspects of people in recovery. I've worked with people, like I said, in prison. I've worked with people in sober housing. I've worked with people, through the church. I've worked with people at Anchor, worked with people as a residential assistant, and it's in each circumstance you see people in a different set of circumstances, different stages in recovery. So like I learned things working at Anchor that I didn't learn working as a resident assistant. As a resident assistant, let me see, the main, I don't know, working with people there was just, what am I trying to say here? Again, a lot of the people that were there had been there more than once, or had been through the process more than once, and just trying to help them to realize that this can be the last time that you have to go through this, and so that was like, I think that was the main thrust of what I was trying to accomplish by working there, helping them to realize that, hey, you can get this, you can.
Yeah.
You don't have to go through this again.
I definitely agree with you there.
Yeah, I mean, you've done well.
Yeah, well, and if I can do it, I think anybody can do it.
Yeah. If you'd have told me a year ago we'd be sitting here having this conversation, I'd be like, what are you talking about? But, it's great. It's great.
Miracles
really
do happen. And, I think it's important that the folks at home know that there's no one the only right way to do this is the way that works for you. Mm-hmm. Just because something's working for you may not work for me, because we're totally different people. But I believe there is a right path for everyone. Mm-hmm. And we just have to find our path, and incorporating what we need to sustain us in our recovery, if it works for us, is going to be the right path, as long as it's working.
I think the important thing is when you find out what works and what is helping you to stay, clean and sober, to stick with that. I mean, that's one thing that I see people do. Like, they'll go through a residential program and they'll find out what works through that program, and then when they complete the program or leave it, the tendency is to kind of like let some of those things that were working go. You know what I mean? And when you find out what works, like when I went through the Salvation Army, that's where I finally got a hold of this, And when I got out of the Salvation Army, what I did was as much as possible, I just stuck with what I was doing there. The same amount of 12-step meetings, the same amount of, pretty much the exact same pattern that I had developed there. I stuck with it, And that's really important. It's sad. Thing that makes me sad is like when a person finds out what they need to do, and little by little, again, like I said, they lose that diligence, and they'll drop this and they'll drop that.
Well, Bill, I want to thank you for coming on the show today.
Well,
it's a pleasure to have you.
Thanks.
I want to invite you down to karaoke Saturday night at Anchor from 6 to 11.
Well, I'm not a big singer, Maya.
Well, recovery can be fun too, and we have fun regardless.
I'll check it out.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next month on Recovery Talks.